Welcome you in a little early on NFL Now today. Hope you had a great wild card weekend, sat on the couch, maybe got some fresh air, watched the games. We'll tell you everything you need to know about divisional weekend coming up shortly. My name is Andrew Siciliano. We're here for an extra hour today at noon Eastern, 9 here in our newsroom in Los Angeles that has been working around the clock because it did not take Jerry Jones very long to find his new head coach. The Jason Garrett press release, as awkward as it may have sounded, was sent shortly before 6 o'clock local, 6 o'clock central last night. And now this morning, we can tell you that they will hire Mike McCarthy, who was fired after Week 13 last year in his 13th season as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. He will replace Jason Garrett after the Cowboys missed the playoffs again for the 6th time in 9 seasons under Garrett. Ian Rappaport, Jane Slater, both working around the clock. Wild card weekend on this story, and actually on the watch for the last week. And it's finally done now. Jason Garrett out, Mike McCarthy in. Ian, tell me how this whole thing came together.
Well, we were all spending time wondering when were the Cowboys officially going to fire Jason Garrett. Here's what the Cowboys did. First of all, they knew Jason Garrett was not going to return. It sounded like he knew he was not going to return. So under some shrouds of secrecy, the Cowboys began interviewing. They brought in Marvin Lewis, the former Bengals head coach, clearly with a focus on some veteran former NFL head coaches in their search. They talked to Marvin Lewis, and then they brought in Mike McCarthy, who was on a plane Saturday morning. And as far as we can tell, that was it. I know they spoke to McCarthy on Saturday. He actually stayed on Sunday. And at that point, when he stayed the extra day, it became very clear what the Cowboys were doing. Finally, during the Eagles playoff game, of course, they announced that Jason Garrett was going to be not retained, basically not extending his contract. At that point, they were already down the road with Mike McCarthy, and it became obvious this morning they were heavy in talks, finally agreeing to a deal. And then as Tom Pelissero told us after he got a text from McCarthy, it is a done deal. Now the Cowboys have a coach, and it's the former Packers coach, Mike McCarthy.
It is the former Packers coach who, Jane, and we all saw, win a Super Bowl in that building. It's difficult to transition here from the awkward goodbye, and it was a very awkward goodbye to Jason Garrett, to now bringing in Mike McCarthy here. They're very different personalities, but Jason Garrett decides, Jane, he wants an experienced NFL head coach.
Sort of standing by waiting for word, equally curious as fans were, because we were being told that while Jason Garrett said goodbye without actually saying goodbye to the players, he was still curiously showing up to work, going about his business as if he was the head coach. Now, the Cowboys have still not confirmed that Mike McCarthy is in fact their guy, even though Mike McCarthy has confirmed to our own Tom Pelissero that he is taking the job. It was interesting this morning when I got a tip that McCarthy had reached out to a running backs coach as a potential candidate for the position. No word yet on whether that candidate has agreed to join the staff, but at least let you know that he was putting together his group for a job. Now, I've reached out to several players. I haven't only heard back from Randall Cobb, but I feel like he's a pretty good one to give us context. He said that he spent 8 great years with him in Green Bay. He credits him for finding him in the draft, bringing him to Green Bay, and also getting him involved early in that offense that he said had a lot of star power. Now, as for Randall Cobb's future, he and his wife tell me that they love the area. She's a chemical patent attorney, and she even told me that she had talked to a couple of law firms that she'd like to stay here and start work after the birth of their newborn child. That'll make 2 little boys in their house. But he, of course, loves the hire. I can only imagine that Dak Prescott will, too. I think it's interesting that Dak Prescott has been compared to Aaron Rodgers over the years, and now you get a coach that has glowingly spoken about any of the current coaches that have current contracts remain on this staff, and if this coach is going to retain any of those with expiring contracts.
Yeah, that's an interesting storyline here. What kind of staff does Mike McCarthy put together, and did this deal involve McCarthy agreeing to keep on any of Jason Garrett's assistants that Jerry Jones might like? Ian, let's talk about Jason Garrett, though, and his next move, because Jerry Jones had said a couple of weeks ago, quite awkwardly, I think, that Jason Garrett's going to be coaching in the NFL next year, but wouldn't say here with the Cowboys. You had connected Garrett potentially to a Giants opening a couple of weeks ago on NFL Network. Is that still maybe possible?
From my understanding, that was the spot where Jason Garrett, when he was talking to his assistants and kind of plotting out what he was going to do next, in case he got fired by the Cowboys, which of course he did. The Giants was the place that he targeted, which is good. Of course, he has a history there. The Maras have liked him. They've wanted to interview him in the past. The problem is the Giants, are already down the road on their coaching search. They're actually talking to Joe Judge, the Patriots special teams coordinator and receivers coach today. Matt Rule, the Baylor coach, is on tap for tomorrow, widely considered to be the favorite there. So it's just not clear if they're going to add Garrett to their dance card rather than simply just hire Matt Rule and be done with it, considering that is, it seems, the coach that they are favoring at this point. I do want to add on staff a little bit. Tom Pelissero, our colleague, has mentioned Mike Nolan as a possible defensive coordinator. And I would say, guys, the biggest question is Mike McCarthy going to keep Kellen Moore? You know that was a big discussion. You know that is someone that the Jones family loves and believes in. Someone who led one of the most productive offenses in the NFL this year. Still a very big question in Dallas.
Yeah, interesting. Do you hire an offensive head coach and say, by the way, you're keeping the offensive coordinator we had this year? Would love to have been a fly on the wall.
He's also good, though.
Yeah, he is also good, and undoubtedly will have offers if he becomes a free agent. We're staying on top of it. Ian Rappaport and James Slater, thank you both, working around the clock on this story. Here's a tweet from Davante Adams. Good for Big Mike. Happy for you, Coach. And you'd have to think McCarthy's happy to go to a building where he's never lost. Packers are 5-0 at AT&T Stadium since it opened in 2009. That includes a Super Bowl. James Jones is part of that Super Bowl team. He's a member of our team now, but played 8 years for Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. James joins us on the phone now. James, what do you think of this? Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys, does it work?
I love it, man. When I woke up this morning and seen it, man, I absolutely love it, man. I was actually talking to some people at my son's football camp yesterday just saying Coach Mike will be a great fit for the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like they have everything that we had in Green Bay, similar on the offensive side of the ball, with the weapons at the running back position. Obviously, Eddie Lacy is not Zeke, but, receiver-wise, you got Gallup. You can find a way to get Randall Cobb back. You got Amari Cooper. I truly believe Dak is going to excel in this offense. I mean, Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs in this offense under Coach Mike McCarthy. This is a receiver-friendly offense, man. It gets the ball out of your hands fast. I absolutely love it. When I seen it, I said, man, the Cowboys are doing the right thing, man. Coach Mike is a great coach.
All right, James, you see Dak Prescott. You watch him every week. As I said, 8 years with Mike McCarthy. What does Mike McCarthy do with Dak Prescott differently, if anything?
I think that what you're going to see different with Dak in between and with Coach Mike's offense is getting the ball out of his hands fast. And then at the line of scrimmage, you'll probably see him have a little bit more control just because it's an up-tempo offense. He only won 1 Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to win a Super Bowl. But every year he's in the playoffs and he has a chance to win one. And it's a great hire by the Cowboys.
All right, James, clearly you're close with Mike McCarthy here. But need to ask this. A year ago at this time, because remember, he got fired week 13. There's all this talk that it got stale and he got lazy and he and Aaron weren't on the same page. What does Mike McCarthy need to do differently? Because seemingly he's had a lot of time to reflect. You saw the piece that Tom Pelissero did. He's kind of a new man. He's rested. He's ready. What does he need to change, James?
To be honest with you, I don't think he needs to change anything. I think sometimes the message could get watered down when you're for 13 years and, we got the same players for 10, 11, 12 years. Sometimes the message could get watered down, but I don't think he needs to change anything. I mean, my years with Coach Mike, man, Coach Mike is an unbelievable coach, unbelievable motivator. I mean, knows how to get his guys to play. I understand all the stuff was coming out between him and Aaron. That was a bunch of he say, she say. But like I said, Coach Mike is a player's coach. Coach Mike is a guy that, always gets the best out of his players, always communicates with his players. So I think at the end of his road, we all know when you lose, and a bunch of that stuff about when he was winning, obviously none of that stuff was coming out. So when you lose, all the stuff comes out. But I don't think he needs to change anything different by the way he handled players and things like that. Now, he's had a bunch of time to sit back at his house at his big old farm out there in Green Bay and kind of do some tweaks and things like that to his offense and things like that. So some of that might be different. But from a coach's standpoint and, basically communicating with the players and how he interacts with the players, I mean, keep all that the same. Coach Mike is a great coach.
James, do you think, last question here, that Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore can coexist?
You know what? That's a very good question because me knowing Coach Mike likes to call his own plays on the offense. He likes to be the OC, not the OC, but he likes to run his offense the way he wants to run his offense. So I can see him keeping Kellen Moore and letting Kellen Moore be the offensive coordinator, but I don't know if he'll let Kellen Moore call the plays. That's what we're going to have to keep our eyes open if Kellen Moore does stay, because I know Coach Mike likes to call the plays. So I don't know if he'll truly give him all that control to call the plays. Possibly could keep him as the OC, though.
It'll be interesting. Do you keep an offensive coordinator, or rather, do you hire an offensive head coach and then say, but by the way, you're keeping our OC? How does that work? James Jones